Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. I wasn't planning on making another video today. It's kind of a rare occasion that I would make this many, but I'm doing this because there's just so much going on right now, and I think that this is some stuff that you need to hear about. You know, the trolls on here and on all these prepper channels, they really like to make a big noise about fear-mongering and you're trying to, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. And I've really tried hard not to do that, but I'm telling you folks, things are getting bad. And I feel personally that I have held back a lot on trying to explain the severity of things, but it's getting too hard to do that. I have to tell it like it is and be a realist. Folks, things are not doing good when it comes to food now, and most especially in the future, because as bad as you think it is right now, it's gonna get worse. And there's just too many things going on that's showing that next year, and who knows however many years after that, when it comes to food, that we're gonna have some tough times ahead of us. And that's why we should continue our endeavors to be more prepared, to produce more food. This is becoming very critical. Just to show you some things here, the U.S. drought map has come out today. It continues to worsen. 70% now of the U.S. is in some level of drought. And this is even taken in consideration that over this past weekend that a lot of areas received some rainfall. In fact, even here, we received over an inch of rain and close to an inch and a half of rain, and we're still under severe drought conditions. 59% of South Dakota, 67% of Indiana, 82% of Kansas, 87% of Nebraska, and nearly 100% of Texas are currently under some level of drought conditions. In all of those states, there's a lot of very extreme drought conditions in the areas. The reason why I mention those states is because those are some of the largest producers of food in the United States. That you could say that that's the real big bulk of food being produced in the United States. And so when you're seeing that much of each of those states under severe drought conditions, it doesn't spell good times ahead for us when it comes to food. Along with that, Biden has pledged $1.3 billion in food aid to Africa. This is just Africa alone. Well, we don't know that there may be future aid sent to other parts of the world or even more sent to Africa, but as of right now, it's $1.3 billion in food aid to Africa. This is on top of the tens of billions of dollars that's already been sent into Ukraine. To put some perspective in this when it comes to food, this is about half of the amount of wheat that the state of Kansas produces. Now, I'm not saying that this 1.3 billion is going to be all wheat, but just for perspective purposes, about half of the wheat that Kansas produces on a good year, okay? So this is based on a good year. This would be about half. Kansas produces the most wheat of any state in the United States. In fact, Kansas produces about 20% of the wheat that's grown in the United States. And so if you took half of that wheat away, that is about the amount of value in food that would be sent to Africa. So this is pretty significant. If you remember back when all of this really started to come to light of shortages and especially with wheat, with the Russia and Ukraine thing, I told you then that if America was completely left alone, and even through, inflation and, droughts and all this kind of stuff, we could probably handle things all right on our own when it comes to wheat because we're capable of producing so much. But when you've got a government, which I said was going to happen, that's sending billions of dollars of our food abroad, when you've got a government that's continually making it difficult on farmers to produce food, making it more and more expensive to produce food because of the rising costs of fuel and supply chain parts that are becoming difficult for farmers to get, it's going to make it a bad year, and it's going to make bad years to come. So, folks, this isn't even begun to be over. The UN World Food Program chief is sounding the alarm on potential food shortages in 2023, which is exactly what I just said and what I have said for a while now. That as bad as it is now, you wait till next year because it's going to get really bad then. More food pantries are reporting that they have empty shelves and they have long lines. And this isn't typically the time of the year that food pantries get a lot of people coming to them. It's typically more in the winter time and around holidays. But I've seen the same type of articles all over that food pantries are really struggling for two reasons. One, they cannot get enough food in. They can't get enough food because people aren't donating as much, because people are hurting individually, and they're getting more people coming in needing food because times are tough. So again, it's going to start hitting the lower levels of the economic ladder first, and we're really starting to see that already. And so I just believe that this is going to continue. Remember the trucker protests a few months back that was going on in Canada? And we were told that they were going to happen here in the United States. And they did to some extent, the convoys and stuff. But the actual protests kind of fizzled out here in the United States. Well, we finally got them. And they're happening in California. California recently passed a new law that basically is kicking out around 70,000 truck drivers out of the state, saying that they can no longer do business. These are owner-operators, and around 70,000 of them under this new law are no longer allowed to drive a truck, to operate a business in the state of California, which is going to be devastating, not just for California, but for the whole country, because California produces an immense amount of food for this country. And California is the home of the largest ports that goods and food and all kinds of stuff comes through those ports and then gets dispersed around the country. And a lot of that's been done by truck drivers. So you take 70,000 truck drivers out of the mix, and well, it's going to hurt them. Because of that, the truck drivers are protesting. They have caused a 13-day, at least a 13-day backlog because of their protesting at the Los Angeles Long Beach port, which is the biggest port in the country. So they're protesting there. They're doing blockades, and it's causing a backlog. In Oakland, the port in Oakland, if I can get my mouth to work right, the port in Oakland has been completely shut down due to the protests. They have completely blockaded that port and shut it down. It's been that way since Monday. This is most definitely going to exacerbate the whole supply chain problem. A lot of stuff, just said it, broken record here, a lot of stuff comes out of California because of those ports. A lot of stuff. And so when you've got the largest port in the country, already experiencing a 13-day backlog, and I believe it's the third largest port in the state of California, which would make it one of the larger ports in the country, is now completely shut down. It's going to keep getting worse. And then, of course, there's the looming potential strike of port workers in California. There's also the potential strike of rail workers here in the United States. It's all just... it's a perfect storm, folks. I just don't know how else to explain it. It's a perfect storm, and that's all it is. Here's something, again, kind of like that UN food program chief that I just mentioned. This is the National Black Farmers Association president, and he's speaking out, issuing a dire warning for coming food shortages. So this isn't just some guy. This guy, he's the head of the National Black Farmers Association. He's a farmer. He deals with lots and lots of farmers across the United States, and he himself is issuing a dire warning that food shortages are coming, folks, and that farmers are really struggling. He talks about in this article, that this interview, that we're sending tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine, we're sending billions of dollars to Africa and all other places, and yet our American farmers, which are the one of the most critical jobs out there. I mean, you know, these critical employees and, you know, valuable and all this kind of stuff that we've heard about for the last couple of years of how, you know, these essential workers and stuff. How much more essential can you get than the people that actually produce the food that keeps you alive? And yet, these farmers are struggling. A lot of them. I've been receiving emails from countless people talking about their own personal experiences in their family, friends, and, you know, communities, of how these farmers, they can't keep up. People that have, you know, second, third, and fourth generation farms are selling out because it's either that or completely lose everything they have, because the cost of doing business is skyrocketed, and on top of that, they're not producing very much. They can't, because things are really tough right now, and yet we're supporting people in other countries. We're supporting wars in other countries. We're feeding people in other countries, but yet our own farmers, the people that actually keep us alive in this country, they're struggling. They're struggling bad. This one here, I'll close on this one. China's ambassador to the UN has urged the world to deal with the world food shortages. He said that there's real food shortages and there's food shortages to come, and that the countries of the world need to come together in unity and figure this problem out. Now, that's all fine, you know, maybe they mean it, maybe it's just for all show, but the reason why I'm pointing this one out, and this is in the Chinese news. First paragraph of this, I'll show you it right here. China will work with countries to implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So if you've wondered where China falls into this whole Great Reset Agenda 2030 stuff, right there it is. I've said that my belief and opinion of the whole Russia and China and Iran and their whole side, you know, North Korea and everyone else, they're all in on this Great Reset Agenda 2030. They just hope to be the ones leading it as opposed to the West. But it doesn't mean that they're not part of it. So right here, you've got the Chinese ambassador to the United Nations pledging and urging other countries to work together, put aside your differences, work together to implement and further along this Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. Which we all know, and if you don't, you should, but we all know is just a really nice, you know, lipstick on a pig of global control. That's all it is. That's absolutely all it is. Folks, call me what you want. I don't care anymore. It doesn't bother me. It never did. But I'm telling you, times are tough. But they're not as tough as they can get. It's not as bad as it's gonna get. It's not peaked yet, is what I'm saying. So as much as we complain about tough times and high food prices and droughts and stuff, it's just gonna get worse, folks. This is why it's so critical to keep yourself focused on your preparations, focused on your spiritual development, focused on your mental strengthening, focused on developing your family, the strength of your family, because it's gonna hurt your family. It's gonna make it difficult for your family, and if your family structure and your family unity is weak, it's gonna pull you guys apart too. So you have to really work on it all. This is a global issue. This is a global attack on traditional families and traditional way of life. This is also a spiritual attack, folks. So while you're making all these other preparations, prepare by getting on your knees in prayer, because there's attacks coming from all angles. This is a perfect storm that we are living in, and it's time to be serious and get yourself ready and get your houses in order. Folks, prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.